The day had died down once more. Night had overtaken the sky as it shined, or rather dimmed, through the land. The wind had flown through the somber beat of the stars as a house was shown in the middle of nowhere. Courage the cowardly dog had been waiting for a while, but he knew a monster was going to show up. It was going to be big, scary, tough, psychotic, nothing he had dealt with before, but something that he would always be scared by, something out of his wildest nightmares. He slept, although anticipating, as he then heard a knock on the door. He then went to open it as he saw something. It was just Eustace. He had gotten back from the shopping store at this time. At this time, there was a virus going around, and yet he had decided to go to the stores. Welp, gotta feed the family somehow, he thought, as he then came in, still aggravated as ever, as he then finally went to sleep. Who goes shopping at 11 p.m. in the night? Courage thought, as he was confused by this camaraderie. Oh well, might as well get the rest I deserve while I need it. He then went to sleep, as then, hours later, he heard scratching on the walls. It was scary, it was tough, it was a bear. Courage saw this thing. It had white eyes, no pupils, a big stupid grin. It waved at him, expecting him to respond with a happy wave back, but instead he backed up. This thing was not normal. This thing was Skitzo the bear. He had seen the cartoons, and although they did hurt, he hadn't been killed by them, which was shocking considering all the reports had stated that whoever watched these cartoons would either be possessed, killed, or hurt mildly. So, Courage knew what these things were and what he was. He had expected this a while ago, but he didn't expect it now. He expected it a month from now. So seeing him in his home, in his territory, at around this time, was kind of shocking. He then screamed and started running for it, as Skitzo's eyes went from white to red. Skitzo then laughed, psychotically, as he teleported right in front of Courage. There was no way out for him. He was already cornered in the wall, near the table, as Courage then sensed something in him, a new fighting spirit somehow. Usually, he would run and scream, taking the damage, but instead, he felt something. This was one of the strongest opponents he had ever met. So it was logical for him to bring something, and he did. He sensed something in the downwards. He sensed something looking around as he then opened the back door on the floor, apparently. He then started running for it as Skitzo tried to follow him, but he shut the door straight in his face, causing one of his teeth to fly straight out. Skitzo then saw the red coming out of his once lost teeth, as it then popped back in. He then looked down, trying to sense where Courage was. Courage was preparing himself for the war, not just the battle. Yes, the war. He was preparing himself for a lot, and he was going to prepare himself really well as he grabbed all the items he could and started packing them in a bag, including the slingshot, a flamethrower, a hammer, heck, even a gun and karate gloves. Why did he bring a gun? Well, Eustace was preparing himself for whenever something started to show up. And considering he's been suspicious lately, it would be noted that he would definitely bring a gun due to his age. So then, Courage packed all this stuff and started running back up. He grabbed the karate gloves and cracked his knuckles. He ran back up, jumped out the door, and slapped Skitzo straight in the face, knocking him halfway across the room. Skitzo just looked at the dog as he laughed. He was thinking, that's what I'm talking about. An actual fighter, not a wuss. Skitzo then sharpened his claws as he started slashing Courage like crazy, although it did nothing to him. Shocked by this, he then resorted to throwing him and ragdolling him across the room. but Courage just kicked him straight in the face before chopping him in half. Skitzo, not impressed in the slightest, then healed himself back up as he grabbed Courage by the tail and punt kicked him into the halls. Courage then looked around, trying to find the basement as he opened it up, revealing where it was, and he ran. The thing is, though, he left the door open. Skitzo knew what was going on. He didn't know that Courage had a plan. He knew that Courage was inviting him, but there was no real reason for him to do so unless he actually wanted to die. So, what was his plan? Just then, something slammed down on Skitzo's face. Some sort of a slingshot with a pie for it. The pie slammed into his face, blinding him as Courage then tied his feet together and tripped him over. He then hopped on Skitzo's head and started slamming his face into the floor violently. This was not the Courage that Eustace and Muriel liked to deal with. Courage then started slamming over and over before dragging him around and tossing him. Skitzo then got up as he smirked even more, his eyes going from white to red in an instant as he grabbed a knife. Courage, scared, then grabbed the gun as he started shooting him in the stomach. This did a lot of damage, as this wasn't something to be messed with. It shot holes through him as Skitzo bled out, but he didn't let this bother him as the holes then healed up, the blood still on the floor. Skitzo then started running at him as Courage then pulled out something else. Skitzo then looked at it, confused. As he then looked down to see what it was, he noticed what it was. He had seen some of these in at least half of his cartoons. Before he could run, it blew up straight in his face, sending him out into the roof. He had been hit with a TNT stick, and it wasn't pretty. His face was reduced to nothing but a skull as he flew through the atmosphere before hitting on the floor. He then got back up as his face healed up. This wasn't going to be let off. Courage then came out of the roof, showing himself. Skitzo then grabbed a knife before trying to stab him, but then he realized this didn't work. What was going on? Even when he started jabbing it in his forehead, nothing happened. It seemed he was impervious, as he then grabbed a happy plum and tossed it at Skitzo, hitting him straight in the eye. This injured him pretty badly as he then backed up. He then started holding out his hands as Courage then started cracking his knuckles again before grabbing the karate gloves. He then started wailing on him, cracking his leg and his right arm. Skitzo then tried to limp away, but Courage just slammed him all over the place. This wasn't a pretty sight. But then Skitzo healed up as he then grabbed Courage with his hair and started tossing him around. Courage was also pretty hurt as he then got a lot of patches and a few blood drops. This wasn't going to let off. As this happened, they both then looked at each other, fury in their eyes. Courage, although usually scared, had finally gotten over that fear of a million episodes. Well, not really a million, but you get what I mean. Skitzo was laughing as his sadistic nature led him into a fighting world. This would not be a pretty sight, whoever wins. While Skitzo grabbed a knife, Courage then grabbed a sword, showing it off as he chuckled a little. Skitzo then enlarged the knife somehow, making it look bigger. Courage then grabbed an AK-47 for some reason. Skitzo, confused, wasn't able to think for long before Courage started shooting him. Why did this dog have a gun? Skitzo thought, as he started running. He ran for the hills, ran for the miles, ran for the water as he then jumped in. Courage then zoomed on over to see what was going on, as Skitzo then dragged Courage underwater. Courage was confused as he started screaming, as Skitzo then started dragging him to the deep bottom. This was it. Skitzo had him where he needed him. As he then got to the bottom, he slammed him onto the water floor before choking him. Was this the end of the cowardly dog? Welp, not really. Skitzo was getting an advantage over him, but Courage's body wasn't all there was to Courage, as his soul then jumped out of the body and started beating the frick out of Skitzo. He decked him in the eye, he decked him in the teeth, letting a few of his teeth run free as blood splattered all over the place, drifting upwards. Skitzo was confused, as Courage then started kicking him straight in the face before dragging him up the water. He then started slamming him onto the side, dragging him upwards as his face was covered in dirt. Then it was over. Courage grabbed something a little confusing, a yo-yo and a pocket watch. Well, what was this gonna do? Skitzo thought. It's a yo-yo, it's a pocket watch. What is he gonna? And then it happened. Skitzo was hypnotized by the yo-yo and the pocket watch. He then stared at them, with his eyes in a spiral, as he then started transforming, confused. He then turned into a snail as Courage then started slurping him. He then ate the slug out of the shell before burping. Welp, that was it. Welp, that was fun to record. If you guys like that, I would subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm sorry if I kind of stumbled on a few things, but, well, that's the best I could do because, I didn't think of a script for this. Next time I'll think of a script, but hope you guys like the narration battle. This is Chris. Ciao.